ocean in my head because there are so many things that I left unsaid. I can almost feel you walking in the distance, but I know that it's not reality. If you are echoing around inside these parallel dimensions all alone, now I'll find you in my dreams. My heart rages around like an ocean in my head. I can almost feel you walking in the distance, but I know that it's not reality. If you are echoing around inside these parallel dimensions all alone, now I'll find you in my dreams. I can almost feel you walking in the distance, but I know that it's not reality. What does perfect even mean? Is there even such a thing? Ooh, can we switch up all the rules and imagine a utopia? Darling, I'm just so fed up with these
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
You are here today in your podcast with a guest. It's an honor for us to have this guest. She's a Wonder Woman of education. She doesn't just understand technology, but she builds like bridges, and she's the president of the California Esports Association. She is awarded with the Guardian of the Year, and she is recognized as 100 most influential voices in American education in 2027. Welcome to Julia Mavrogeorge. Thank you very much to be with us. And Julie, I'm going to start with the first question that we do. We do a little bit of introduction about yourself, but we would like to know about you. Who is Julie? What she does? How is the days?
Awesome. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, my name is Julie Mavrogeorge. I am the president of the California Esports Association, but I also own my own business, Jdogmav Consulting, and I work with counties, districts, and organizations statewide, and even a couple internationally, to help develop esports and STEAM programs. So when I talk about esports, it's not just competitive gaming. I work with districts to develop curriculum and sustainable programs, as well as try to introduce them to sim racing and drone racing and robotics and coding, like any of the things that kind of can help spark interest in kids, finding their passion for a career in the future and using esports and gaming kind of as that carrot to draw them in. So I've been doing this for about 2 years. Prior to that, I was a CTE coordinator, career technical education coordinator in Fresno Unified. Fresno is the third largest district in California with about 70,000 students. And then prior to that, I was an IT specialist and a web developer, IT specialist within Fresno Unified and kind of a freelance web developer. And I've done project management and program development. I've worked for nonprofits to introduce and bring robotics and coding programs to underprivileged communities around the Fresno Unified area. Esports for me is kind of the culmination of all the amazing, wonderful things I've done throughout my life. And now I get to do it with districts across the U.S. I've worked with LA Unified and New York City Public Schools, Atlanta Public Schools. I'm also a part of the Interstate Scholastic Esports Alliance. California is, which is a broader organization that helps bring esports tournaments and leagues to states. There's 25 states involved right now. And I'm also serve on the board for the National Association of Esports Coaches and Directors that creates pipelines and certifications in coaching and esports for K-12 and collegiate programs.
That's very impressive. It's really good to have you here with us. Thank you so much. So let's go back to the start. So we know that you've learned, you discovered this world of IT with your son. So tell us a little bit about this. And when was the exact moment that you thought, oh, I want to work with that? Like when you clicked?
When it clicked. So yes, in 2015, my youngest son it was summer between his junior and senior year in high school. And I knew that I was fortunate enough that I was a stay-at-home mom. Like I mentioned, I worked for several nonprofits and creating conferences, events, and doing project management. But I knew I wanted to find a career that had meaning and where I could provide, service and just bring something to the next generation that maybe I didn't have access to. And we had a small tech hub in Fresno, and I went down and kind of walked the facility, met with a couple of the instructors there, and they were offering courses in web development. And my son had already taught himself, my older son had already taught himself some coding and tinkering. And like, he's one of those, like, he built his own, drone out of Legos and robots and things like that from parts around the house. And so we went down, we took a couple classes. We were invited to join a cohort where we actually got paid to learn. And then from there, the organization I worked for was a nonprofit where we brought some of those coding robotics programs to those underprivileged communities. And Fresno Unified reached out because they noticed, like, they were interested in creating what we now call the STEAM team for Fresno Unified. And because of the background that I had, it was a good fit. So I joined the IT department within Fresno Unified. I'll be honest, those coding years were a little difficult for me. I had to put a lot of energy and effort into it, but having a son where it comes naturally, and he's now a software engineer, helped me along with the way, was super helpful. And we're big on family, and I don't believe in, like, doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are, like, there's a place for you in this technology world, and you can find your passion, you can find that thing. So although coding it's kind of on my back burner. All of the skills that I learned in project management, program development, all of that, and the robotics. And then I kind of stumbled into esports. So that's how I got there. But the esports part started when I met the gentleman from Microsoft. His name is Stephen Reed. He created the Minecraft Education Esports Worlds at the time. And he and I connected, and we started the first Minecraft Education Esports League in the US, partnering with a district in South Africa. And now that has grown to where it is across the nation, where Florida does Battle of the Beaches, LA does Level Up LA, Battle of the Boroughs in New York. And so it's just growing exponentially. And I'm just excited that I was able to be a part of helping launch that with the Minecraft education team.
No, you can go, Klaus. You are muted.
I'm really sorry.
Don't worry.
That's okay.
But okay, so you're talking about Minecraft, but I wanted to talk about when you joined the IT department of large schools, such as Fresno. Tell us a little bit about this as well.
Sure. So my role was specifically to, when I was hired, was to help get our students, because it was in 2018, and our students were, we had a company that we were working with to get tablets out to all of our kids so that they could learn at home, because a lot of our students are migrant farm worker families, come from migrant farm worker families. We have a lot of families that come up from Mexico that land in the Central Valley. And the district, the IT department recognized that they just didn't have those resources at home. And being that we're moving into this digital age, or we're in this digital age, right, we wanted to be able to assist students with that. So while I was there, although I wasn't specifically a part of the team that did they were able to get internet towers put out, across the city. That was another team in the IT department. We have about, at the time I was there were about 85 people in our IT department. And my role specifically was to develop these STEAM school, after school programs, and then work with the middle school teachers primarily and elementary school teachers on an event we called the Tournament of Technology, which focused on coding, design, video, and robotics. And so I helped with a couple other members from the team. There were 3 of us, and then it kind of grew a little bit. And so we ran these programs, and then I brought in drones into the district. And then the district also launched Fuel, which is Fresno Unified Esports League, that same year that I was hired. But I didn't join Fuel until 2019. And then what I focused on was all of the career aspects that are around esports. And that's when I made the jump into career technical education to help develop curriculum and whatnot, but still very connected to esports.
Really nice. Just for understand, I'm trying to get like some chronological time. The tournaments and everything, it was before you start to do sports, right? Like, for example, I would like to ask, how was that to do like a tournament of technology? But just before, I want to understand, you did that, all of the things before we start with esports? Or no?
Correct.
Yes, correct. Okay.
Correct. The Tournament of Technology was before esports. So yes, that was an initiative that I was put on immediately upon starting within the district. And I believe at the time we were in year 12 or 13 that they had done it, and it had grown exponentially year after year. And it was focused primarily on middle school students, and the teachers primarily within like digital technology or like the arts, media, and entertainment pathway of production and videography and graphic design. We had a game design portion to it. They also did 2 different robotics. Well, actually there were 4 total. There was kind of a search and rescue that you would code and autonomously try to have your robots, find individual items kind of within a grid or a maze. And then they had battle bots, both small and large, using Lego, and then also Vex robotics. And then they also had one other one that was fully coding, where they would have to code the robot to execute a couple of different, it changed every year, but a couple of different, they had to perform certain duties within a certain time frame. And so, yeah, all of that happened all before esports. Like I said, I kind of fell into esports, right during the pandemic as we went out, and I had so many teacher friends that were, how do I engage my students? Their cameras aren't on. They aren't, responding. They're not showing up. And I had, again, we'll kind of go back to my sons. Both of my sons played Minecraft from the day it began in 2015, right? And I would watch and kind of go, what are you doing? Like, what is this game, right? Like, it didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time. But what I realized through Education Edition was that there's literally not a single subject you can't teach within Minecraft. You name it, they have a physics world. You can teach chemistry. You can do science projects. You can do art, design. I mean, you name it, history. There are worlds that are created by educators across the globe on just about everything. And so that's how my passion for Minecraft started. But immediately after meeting Steven, I was, I'd played basketball and softball all the way through middle college, junior college, and coached even 20 years beyond that. And so when I saw what was available, my program development and coach brain went on, and I created a framework essentially, or a playbook, you could say, on how to run an esports program within a district. And so, yeah, that it kind of like I said, all of the things I did prior kind of all led up to that culminating moment. And then running it for an additional, I left the district in 23, May of 23? May of 24, sorry, May of 24.
Don't worry.
And so, as I had the opportunity to develop all that, that's what honestly gave me the confidence to step out and do something on my own. And it wasn't just one career choice. It was kind of the touching my toes or putting my fingers in here and there and trying different things along the way. But I just had a draw towards technology, and especially now with AI. And, I utilize AI for a lot of different things, even within esports. But yeah, it's kind of my passion, and I know it's not going to go away. So trying to educate, young kids all the way up through, high school on how to utilize the tools that are available to them to find their passion in technology. That's what I love to do.
Before the next question, I would like to say that I am so grateful for professors and teachers like you, because I was doing a project in a university in the pandemic time, and I was also doing a second university in IT. And for me, that I was 30 years old, it was so hard to pay attention in the class because it was so like a cold. Everyone was like with the webcam, I don't know how to say, but off, And I imagine if for me, who knew that it was important for my career, I imagine for kids like with 12, 13 years old, they don't have any idea how important school are. And trying to get like new ways to make them pay attention is like what makes everything different,
Right. And statistics say that 96% of us play video games of some sort. And most of the time I'll get a reaction from people, well, I don't play video games. I'm like, well, do you play Candy Crush on your phone or Mojang or, like any Bubble Pop, like those are video games. Even if you play solitaire online, right? And so my thought is, if 96% of the people are already engaged with the video games, then why aren't we leveraging them more effectively to teach people through them? And again, going back to Minecraft, right? There's, especially for young kids, well, high schoolers as well, but for young kids, it's so engaging. Many even 4, 5, 6-year-olds have already played Minecraft, right? Because it is, you can play in creative mode in Education Edition where you can turn off the mobs and it's not survival mode and that type of thing. And so it's just an engaging way for them to be able to express themselves, and the tools that they have in the platform for, to be able to write essays and take pictures of what you're building and things like that. There's really no reason why educators can't, or in my opinion, shouldn't use it to leverage, right, what kids are already interested in.
Yeah, great. And also nowadays, everything is about gamification. I see, for example, apps for meditation, and for when you don't want to procrastinate anymore, everything is about games. So we're already in this world. We just have to, as you said, like leverage it.
I saw nowadays an app that even for gym they are doing some gamification. Like if you go to the gym more times, you get like a better ranking. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's the reward.
Yeah.
I forgot the exact name, but you're being rewarded and you have dopamine, etc.
Exactly.
But let's get back to I want to talk about the Minecraft.
Okay.
How was the reaction of the principals when they heard that Minecraft would be used as an official teaching tool? How was their reaction?
So even still, you get some pushback from some who are, I want to say, more interested in traditional teaching tools. But our students, although I have nothing against classical education, I have nothing against traditional ways of teaching students. I believe that those are, that's how I learned, right? They are effective.
Right.
The attention span of students nowadays seems to be much shorter, right? And I'll attribute that to, you walk around in the store and you see, babies, 18-month-olds, 2-year-olds with a phone in their hand, watching a video, right? And so I think as a society, and not to mention the readily available, screens everywhere, right? Like billboards, right, are moving screens now. TVs, games, monitors, everywhere. The attention spans of students are significantly reduced. So you'll get some pushback from some principals. When I started, so to give you an idea, there were 66 elementary schools, and I started it just in elementary. And that first year we had 32 of them participate. It blew my mind. I thought I'd get 10 or 12, that would want to participate, but to get 32 was, truly remarkable in my opinion. And that speaks to the type of educators that are teaching out there, right? And not just in Fresno Unified, but in districts all across the U.S., that they recognize that we need to adjust to how our students learn, as opposed to trying to make our students fit into a box of the way we want to teach. And so I try to celebrate those teachers. But the principals of the schools where they did start it were so encouraging and behind them. They bought jerseys and or t-shirts. They would hold events in the cafeteria when teams would compete. We did everything virtually, well, through the pandemic, of course, but even when we came back, busing students from site to site is costly. And the thing about esports is that you can stream. So like Fresno's a Microsoft district, so they use Teams to stream the events between two schools. And so it was really wonderful to see those students competing live. Excuse me. I apologize. Sorry.
It's okay.
So yeah, it was wonderful to see. Oh my goodness. Pardon me. I woke up with a cough this morning.
Don't worry.
It's okay. It's okay.
So yeah, overall the district supported it, quite well. In middle and high school, all of the middle school and high schools had a team playing also either Rocket League, or right now they're playing Marvel Rivals. So I think as a whole, our district embraced it. And that was largely due to the IT team, and then the collaboration between athletics, student engagements, and also the CTE department once I got in there. So, having, I think, the teachers and the administration, both sides working together and being supportive of one another, is a huge asset for any esports program.
And I understand that if it's hard for us to convince people that you can use like gaming for education, I would like to know a little bit more about like the process of founding like the Fresno Unified Sport League, right? It's FUEL. I don't know how to pronounce if it's FUEL. How was that? How was the process? I imagine that you have already made some events, like advance with the students, but how was that?
Yeah, so the thing that was awesome, the CTO at the time, he was very much a tech nerd, and Kurt, if you're watching, shout out to you, but he refers to himself as a geek, right? And he would, he knew, he was the one who started that tournament of technology, and he knew that we could leverage students and having that event, right? That he knew that as long as there was a culminating event at the end where students could showcase what they'd learn or do, that was going to be really important. So because Fresno Unified was large enough, and there were 7 comprehensive high schools, but then also 8, I say 8, which included all of the alternative education schools that all came together. So those might be credit recovery schools or special education schools or something like that. They kind of put all of those students together. And so the schools had multiple teams. And they would compete against each other within their grade levels. And then, yes, at the end, we would have a tournament where we'd bring all of the teams together to compete in a one-day, all-day Saturday tournament. The funding was, and I think should be the model for how you should fund esports programs, in that it wasn't owned by one independent department. IT paid for, the devices and making sure that the event got set up, right? And because a LAN tournament with 50 devices, it would take us 5 or 6, 7 hours of 30 of us putting the event on in a gym, setting it up, right? Athletics would pay for the jerseys and the transportation. Student engagements would pay for the food for the event to feed the students. And then CTE, when I came on, right, then we would help with the devices within CTE classes. So they'd have labs that they could use dual purpose for video production or graphic design and esports. And then for those sites, particularly the middle schools that maybe didn't have those CTE programs where they need a little beefier device for esports, IT would purchase those devices for those programs. So you aren't relying on a single department or a single grant. It was spread out so that it was not a big hit on any one program or one department. And so they still run it like that today. They've actually now built an arena, I believe they call it an IT center, IT event center. So they hold that tournament of technology. They hold drone racing events. They hold robotics events. They hold esports tournaments as well, that they built at a single middle school in central Fresno. And so, again, I think that if you can approach it in a way that you can break down silos and have everyone come together to work together, I think that is the best way to fund any program.
Tell us a little bit more about those tournaments. How were they? What games were involved in?
Absolutely. So in Fresno, they like to run just one game per semester. So over the years, it's changed. It started with just high school and FUEL with Rocket League, and then moved to League of Legends. Then they did Overwatch, and now they're doing Marvel Rivals. So they just they run 2 seasons, fall and spring, and then they also have 2 tournaments. For middle school, they stick with Rocket League primarily, and they use PCs because, again, it's that dual use, right, from classroom during the day as well as esports after school. The tournaments we would have, again, anywhere from roughly around 100 teams, give or take, up to like maybe 120 teams, depending on every school, like I said, had multiple teams. The whole objective was not to have tryouts, but to let all students play regardless of how good they were. And then it was up to the coaches to try to, level the teams or try to keep it so that, we didn't have stacked teams, I want to say. but yeah, we'd host a full tournament in a gym all day long. Food, parents, we'd get, a couple, anywhere from 500 to a couple thousand parents. And when I got involved, I started to bring in some vendors as well as some colleges to come and participate. And we hosted a couple of Q&A sessions with college coaches so that parents could understand what the collegiate scene for esports looked like. We had a local media conglomerate that would work with students on the production side and the broadcasting side. So they had a broadcast van, and just like most of the students would do production or broadcasting for football or other sports. And this, we decided, well, let's try it with esports. My apologies.
Don't
and
worry,
so
that's okay.
we worked with them, and they would put kids in the van to broadcast, and they'd bring out the full media cameras where kids were in the stands filming. Some kids would also, I'd work with the CTE teachers, and they'd come out with their handheld cameras, and they'd take pictures and videos and do interviews. And so the whole point was to get the kids involved and have them help with not just the competition, but all the career aspects that go into it as well, including like they would shoutcast the event that we would shoutcast on Twitch or YouTube and stream. So then we'd also work with graphic design teachers who would help create the transitions and the overlays for the stream. They would help create the logo for the t-shirt each season. So we were trying to get kids involved in more than just the gaming aspect, but also like understanding that there are these connections with colleges and career outside of just what you're experiencing in high school. And so a lot of the vendors and partners that we would bring in worked within the industry somehow in those different career fields to just have those conversations and expose kids to what they could potentially do when they graduated.
Really nice, really nice. I have a question that I imagine the answer, but I think it's going to be a good shortcut. You need time for rest or something?
I'm okay.
Okay, really?
I'm okay. Yeah.
You often say something that I imagine why, but I would like that you explain for us. You usually say that esport is a Trojan horse for Steam. I imagine that it's because of everything that you have inside that, but I would like to ask you for explain for us why you say that.
Yeah, because to me, esports, again, if we go back to everybody, most kids play some type of video game, right? On a console at home, and they're getting online with people who they don't know, right? Like as a parent, I was always very careful. Like I wanted to know what games they were playing. Who are you listening to in your headset, right? Let me listen, right? Because you don't know. But with esports, you are on a team with kids that are from your school. There's a mentor coach that's overseeing you, right? You're learning all of the communication, collaboration, teamwork, strategic planning, critical thinking. And these things happen even if you don't have some of the career aspects a part of your program. Just esports as a whole it lends to teaching kids communication, right? So when I would reach out to partners and vendors and organizations that maybe I wanted to work with to try to get kids some internships, one of the main things they would say is, what we see as we're interviewing young adults that coming in to take careers or take jobs within our organization is the lack of social skills, the lack of that ability to communicate or deal with conflict resolution or staying on time, right? Staying within timeline deadlines, right? Like they hadn't grown to learn those skills. By introducing an esports program, right, it's much like a traditional sport. It's run that way where, you have to show up on time. You have to be in school. You can't just show up to practice, right? You have to get a certain GPA usually. and you have to be in school and be a participant in order to be on the esports team. And then, they practice starts at, we'll say 4:00, it ends at 5:30. Well, you got to show up on time or your coach isn't going to let you play, right? So they're starting to learn those skills just like you would in sports. On top of that, again, when you talk about communication, like, right, kids wear headsets, right? With the headset on, I can't hear what's going on around me. I can hear who's talking to me in my headset, right? And so you have to be able to speak clearly and quickly. You have to be able to make split-second decisions and be able to communicate with your teammates how to execute on those skills that they have that you don't. Or, I'm moving over this direction, I need you to cover here. We use Rocket League, for example, right? Like, there's 3 cars in Rocket League per team, but there's not technically an offense or defensive position, but you within your team have to decide based on skill set and numerous other factors, right? How you're going to approach each match. And it's not where, like in soccer, you play an individual position. Within esports, you have to know all 3 positions, because every team that you're playing plays a little differently, right? And so the amount of skills that kids are learning there is just incredible. Then you add in now all of the career opportunities, right? So, from traditional ones like game design, and that could be the creative side or the coding side of developing games. But what about the people who set up that LAN tournament, like I would do for the IT department? Like, that's a lucrative career. There are full companies that's what they do. They put on esports tournaments for DreamHack, for Evo, for GDC, whatever it is, right? For all these shows, as well as colleges, right? You have to have somebody who knows cybersecurity and safety, digital citizenship, all those types of things for your different programs. And then we talk about finance. Teams need athletic trainers and or physical therapists, right? Proper, ways to sit in your chairs, exercises to do when your thumbs get tired and your fingers, right? Your shoulders, your arms. They have trainers. There's psychologists within esports. So, like, any career that you can think of, really, I liken esports to the Super Bowl. Like, so if you look at the Super Bowl and all the AV that goes into that, the commentators, right? There's the fan development, there's the jersey and development and shirts and merch for that event, right? All of that also goes into esports. And so when we talk about the esports ecosystem, we're talking about all of those careers that go into helping to make the event possible. And because kids already like gaming, they'll be more engaged in wanting to be a part of putting on that type of event, which then is just going to help them, A, with their career choice, and B, potentially, collegiate scholarships and understanding where they might plug in a collegiate program.
Do you want to talk something, Marcelo?
No, that's okay. You can talk.
I have another question. Well, we're talking about, usually when we're talking about kids, we always think about preparing them for their career, the professional career in the future. But because you're you're seeing them growing up, can you already say if there's some skill that you think, wow, that skill is going to change the game? Not that they need to develop it to become professionals in the future, but no, they have this skill that we didn't in the past, or maybe it wasn't that important, and that's going to change the game in the future. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, can you say if something, and also the opposite, is there some skill that they have to develop outside the gaming world, like in the real life? Can you talk about this a little bit, please?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I think that kids who actually participate, on esports, right, that they're going to develop skills, those soft skills, more readily than those maybe that don't. So, but when we talk about what kids are developing as they're coming into it, they have, I tell teachers all the time, I do a lot of training for like Minecraft as a whole, right? And helping teachers understand how to utilize, well, not just Minecraft, but also other games for teaching, history or whatnot, but a lot of Minecraft. And I tell them, you have to flip the switch in that you are never going to know as much, no matter how much time you put into Minecraft, you're never going to catch up to the amount that these young kids already know. Again, because they usually start playing when they're 3, 4, 5 years old, right? Their memory, their tactical memory skills are developed, with technology far faster, far quicker. It's more seamless, right? So they know how to use a computer. They understand how, the keyboards are connected and if the printer's working or not working, like, right, just those types of things. But they also, especially with AI, they are learning how to be able to develop these skills that we are, but they're young and they're moldable. And so those skills are becoming a part of who they are as they're growing, where we as adults are having to learn them as adults. But the kids are growing up with that being part of their normal everyday life. And so I see where they just, you introduce a skill to them and they can master it in a very short amount of time, where it takes us longer. So for teachers, I'm like, don't worry about, flip the switch. You don't have to know everything. The kids are going to know more than you are. Embrace that. Allow them to teach you. Partner with them on technology pieces, because in that way, you're empowering your students and you are allowing them to lead in your classroom or in your club or in, whatever area it is that you're working with them. You're allowing them to also build those leadership skills and those teaching skills at a very young age. So that's where I think kids are going to be far ahead of like these young kids now that are in elementary. You give them 10 more years, they're going to far surpass any of us that are already adults when it comes to AI, if you're not, daily putting into it and learning and developing. But again, yes, I think that you add then these technology programs, whether even if it's robotics or drone racing, sim racing, something like anything like that, the engineering skills like in sim racing and drone racing that they're learning, they can start that at 6, 7, 8 years old, right? When you think of engineering, like it's like, oh, well, we're just going to introduce that in high school. I'm like, no, we can start way back here where kids are learning how to, also data analysis, which is a huge topic right now, data research and data analysis. That's something that within esports and sim racing and drone racing in particular, to improve your times and your scores and, your maneuvers, you have to understand how to, change trajectories or certain things on a car, like the camber of the wheels or the rake of the front for sim racing. And for drones, it's, the pitch and yaw and, how high or low or how you're going to move around. And, all of it has to do with weather and just all of these things that kids can learn in a fun, engaging way that far surpassed anything that I would say I had available to me when I was in, elementary or high school.
Nice. Before the question, I have to say something that I am really thank you for what you said about the skills that they get playing, because I have been trying to say that in my university a lot of times, saying like they are increasing some skills, they are learning some skills that they are going to use in the world. They are going to use in their jobs. It's amazing. My question is, you won the Sport Director of the Year in 2022, right? And I imagine that after that, your authority in the industry grows. Everyone was looking for you. But just after that, you were trying to find the California Sports Association. Why do you feel that it was time to looking for something like that instead of just continuing as a consultant or something like that? Because I imagine that after 2022, everyone was looking to you.
So, so 2022, I was still in the district. I was in IT. And And honestly, that was a complete shock. I have no idea who nominated me still to this day. It was quite an honor, and it was a lot due to, the fact that I did bring in a lot of the career part, the career part of the esports ecosystem to help develop. I had a lot of schools and districts reaching out, and they were, saying, hey, how did you start your program? What are you doing? How did you integrate this? Who did you work with? And I would meet with people on a regular basis. And then when I moved into CTE, that's when I decided, okay, there's a lot going on across the US, and there isn't a lot of, there are a lot of us who are collaborating, but there's no like official organization that really, was developing a lot of this. And so, I mentioned, like, I'm a part of the Interstate Scholastic Esports Alliance. That's kind of the umbrella that California Esports Association fits under. There are 25 other state organizations, and the ISEA is there to be a support and resource, right? To just kind of connect us all. For us, initially, it was just, we all just came together and we were like, how are you doing this? What works in your district? Well, how are you running this tournament? Who are you partnering with? Who, just to be able to share the ups and downs and the struggles that we're all having, because esports still, especially in the scholastic space, I would say we're in the toddler stage, kind of. A lot of us have kind of figured out how to walk and are running a little bit, but there's so many people that haven't even started crawling yet, and we want to help them. So I created, myself and three other individuals created the California Esports Association to bring together all of the districts and all of the counties and all of the organizations in California to be a resource and support hub. Many of the states hold state leagues and state competitions. We're not going to do that in California because we have 10 million students and almost 1,200 schools, and that would be 1,200 high schools. And that would be a lot to undertake. And so we saw too that many of our districts, Moreno Valley, Val Verde, Fresno, LA, Stockton, they'll run their tournaments within their district because they're big enough, right? Fresno, like I said, we'd have, 100 plus teams, right? And we just break them up into, just like you would for football, right? Where you play in divisions, and then your divisional, divisions play each other to get that top 16 or top 18 for, a tournament. So we decided, and also there's a lot of online, play too, different organizations that have online competitions. And we didn't want to come in and say, okay, everybody stop what you're doing and everybody play for the CEA. That was the last thing we wanted. So what we've decided to do is partner with all the different organizations, both nationally and the leagues that are created within California. There are a couple: the Central California Esports League, the United Esports League. There's the Southern California Esports League. So there are also individual leagues outside of districts and counties. And so we just said, let's partner with everyone, and you all get your first place finishers, right, in all your titles. And then at that point, we'll come together and run a tournament. Now, we aren't going to do that until at least 2027. Right now, we're trying to find out all of the organizations and schools that are actually running esports. And I'll tell you, weekly, we find, oh, we didn't know you had that program, right? And we want to bring everyone together. And so as part of that, I just had a meeting today where we're trying to connect sim racing, right, with all the other state organizations, and drone racing to just expand and grow. So the thing I can say about scholastic esports in California and across the nation is that most of the companies, nationally well-known companies, as well as those that are, grassroots at the state level or even at the district level, we all work really well together. There's not a lot of competition. There are some players out there that, want to own it all, and, that's not going to work in our space. We like to be very collaborative. We like to keep it grassroots, and we like to, share what we can to help everyone grow and succeed.
Okay. Well, You have that nickname, Wonder Woman. uh, it was given by the industry. So, what does that mean to you?
It's
And not only personally but professionally, how do you think they see that? How so both of them, like to you and to the field?
Well, it's an honor. I mean, and I've been told the reason why people call me Wonder Woman is, well, one, I value integrity, honesty, and authenticity. Those are the three words that I use all the time, and those are characteristics I think that Wonder Woman possesses, as well as if you watch some of the comic shows of Wonder Woman, like Justice League, I'm thinking in particular, there's a bit of naivete in her, which I also have. I'm a person that I believe that I see the good in people. I try to focus on the good in people, and from time to time I've been taken advantage of because of that. Because I try to live my life in a very authentic and honest way. So there's that piece, but then I've been told that I'm able to execute on things at half or a quarter the speed of most people. So like if you come to me and you're like, hey Julie, I have this idea, I don't just like go, oh, that's a nice idea. I plug it into my matrix in my brain that has all the other things within esports, and I see where it fits, and it just kind of like click, 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 and then I'll execute on it. I'll say, okay, I can connect you with XYZ person or XYZ organization, and what if we do this? And before you know it, it's this web that's kind of created where I've been able to connect or help an organization or an individual or a district or a school, whatever, get what they need for their needs, right? So another thing that I say often is, I always want to know what your program goals and your student outcomes are. And I think those are really important for developing a sustainable program. And I think when you think of Wonder Woman, well, one that I love the fact that she flies, she has an invisible jet and all that great stuff. She has that lasso of truth. But the fact that, it's always about the good for other people, right? And I truly don't, I've been told that I give things away too much, but I would rather give things away and help and serve people and help them achieve their goals. As opposed to making $1 million on a product or an event or something like that, right? It's so it's a multiple factors. So both personally and professionally, it's really about that honesty, integrity, authenticity, and then being able to really help both partners, organizations, and the school districts equally without having. I stay neutral, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. I don't take sides. I just try to help the best, help those people figure out what their best options are.
One thing that I would like to say before a question is, I don't know what happens with the word now, but you say people are saying that you give too much, but this is, for me, is like empathy. This is like helping people. It's a good thing, it's not something bad, but nowadays people make look like, okay, you are giving too much. No, you are just a kind person who wants to help the other people.
Yeah. It's just, I know there are people out there who, I could brand myself differently or maybe brand myself, right? And sell that. And I don't feel comfortable with that, right? I really feel like I agree with you. I think being empathetic is, not everyone has that and or doesn't exercise empathy. And so, I would rather help see someone else succeed than make $1, I guess is what I'm getting at there.
Actually, I have another question. Well, first of all, I think what you said, that connecting things quickly, that's very important to us. And I think that's also a skill that can be developed while gaming, because you have to be aware of what your peers are doing. You have to plan what's going to be your next step. So I think that's very important, and to think strategically, right? So yeah, I think that's very good. And nowadays, because we are in a fast-paced world, you have to think even faster and faster, or you can't be on top of things. So I think that's what you said, and it's very inspiring as well. We are, I think, gaming, this world, the internet itself, it can be used for, let's call it, good and bad. And I think you're using the resources we have, what internet and technology is providing to us, to do something good. And that's very, I think it's very, I forgot the word in English, but I think what I want to say is that that's amazing. Okay. And it's really good to have people like you here to give, to pave the way, so we can be in a good side for our society, to use the skills, the resources we have to do the good.
Yeah.
And also I was thinking about another question, that in 2024, I think you were awarded as the Guardian of the Year, right? And how does that reflect your mission on mentoring women in game? We're already talking about teaching people using the internet, and now you have another aspect of it, is that women. So how?
Yeah. So that was a part of an organization called the Gamers. And the Gamers is an organization that helps uplift and support women and femme identifying individuals and allies to succeed, but also just to provide a community of just really humble and awesome people who want to grow in content creation or esports or gaming, and to share their light, really. I mean, that's just part of it. And so to be recognized, well, again, I do not know who nominated me for that award either, but to be recognized by your peers and those in the industry that, and to define the guardian. So the guardian is somebody who is uplifting the next generation to help them succeed in the future of esports and gaming. And I really, just like we had just talked, right, just from the previous question, like that's really my mission, is how do I find those students who are maybe lost, or they don't know what they want to do, or those teachers who are, pulling their hair out because they just don't know how to reach this type of new students that, I do that because I hear that a lot. I don't know how to reach these kids, because they are different, right? They've grown up with a cell phone or a tablet in their hand. They're different than kids, 5-10 years ago. And so if I can help connect those students and or those teachers to resources and skills that help them do their job better, for the teachers and the students, right? Their job is to learn. So let's teach them in a way that they want to learn, right? Like, let's use those tools that, inspire them or that they're drawn to. So the Guardian Award was really an honor, because, it says to me that the mission that I'm on, has purpose, has meaning, and is needed and is recognized. And so I just extremely grateful to the Gamers for the opportunity, one, to have a platform to connect with other women in particular, right, in a safe place, but also a platform to be able to speak out and say, hey, we need to look at things a little bit differently than we have in the past.
Nice. And you say that everyone is different. It's so amazing to see that. And I have been searching about you and everything, and I see that you often say that game is like one act for a lifeline, for neurodivergent students.
Yes.
Could you share any kind of specific story that the life has been changing for a program or something like that?
Absolutely. So I have two stories that are very similar, actually. So I'd first like to define, how I define neurodivergency in esports, right? So I think of neurodivergent students as, maybe they've been diagnosed with autism or ADHD or ADD or dyslexia or even anxiety, depression. I mean, just a myriad of OCD, you name it, right? I also want to put in the added caveat that I believe we are all neurodivergent in some way. That I have OCD tendencies. I don't take medication for it. I've never been diagnosed, but you know what? I like things in their place, right? At the end of the day, right? Both of my children, both of my boys struggle with anxiety and depression, right? And I wish, I'm one of those parents that I wish I knew then what I know now. We were a family that you didn't game during the week, you only played on the weekends. But what I realize is that for those have been diagnosed with neurodivergent, diagnoses, that gaming and esports and screen time is an outlet for them. It's their safe space. And so that's the thing that I want, that I attach to neurodivergency, right? Is a screen is safe for them. We had an instance in Fresno where we had a young boy, two young boys, both fifth graders. One was autistic and the other was a football player. And these two boys, right, so we have a school where it is just 5th through 8th grade. So they didn't know each other prior to coming to this school. But I can almost guarantee you that whatever school that they were at, right, at the time, right, many of the autistic kids were put in in a table group together with a teacher's aide to provide assistance for them. So they weren't always integrated, or maybe they even had their own special day class. They weren't integrated necessarily with students. Well, the term often used is mainstreamed students. And so this football player, he grew up, playing sports and, having his regular academic activities. And then you have the autistic student who had a totally different experience as far as education. And they come to the school and they join the esports team. And they were the perfect combination of leadership. These two boys probably would never have become friends without esports, right? Because they never interacted really together. The way that they think and they process information and even learn are completely different. But the autistic student, because of the hyper focus on the screen and the ability to pick up on split-second decisions and movements and see things that, even when I would watch them play, I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming. How did he see that coming, right? Coupled with the leadership of the football player, who had a bit of an authority, or confidence about him, I want to say, that maybe the autistic student didn't have to start with. You brought those two boys together, and their team, for the 4 years that they were together at that school, won each season. Every single season, their team won, because they learned how to collaborate and communicate together, and support one another's strengths and weaknesses, and communicate, resolve conflict, do the strategic planning of okay, next round we need to do this and this instead of that and that. It was amazing. The other example I'll give is I was at a conference a couple years ago and speaking, and I was talking specifically on a panel about neurodivergency in esports, and how, the statistics show that anywhere about 33 to 35% of students on any given esports team are neurodivergent. So that's about a third, right? A third of your students. If you have 6 players, 2 of those are probably neurodivergent. So that provides both possibilities, but also can be setbacks for every coach or team, depending on how that coach handles all of the differences within students. Well, this we were talking about the pluses and the minuses, the positives, and there are far more positives than there are negatives, in my opinion, because not only do neurodivergent kids learn to communicate by looking at the screen. But by the end of those, well, actually, I mean, those two boys were together for 4 years, but at the end of like a year and a half, they were looking at each other and having conversations. They were eating lunch together. So like it completely changed the view of both students and brought the autistic student, I'm going to say, out of the shell. I mean, that's not the right term, but he was finally accepted for who he was and for the strengths that he had, right? And so we were talking about these things on this panel, and at the end, a mom stood up and she literally said, I cannot sing the praises of esports enough. My son was a middle schooler and was contemplating suicide until he joined the esports team. And the camaraderie and fellowship and friendship that he gained on that team, that mom attributes to saving his life, because he was one of those, kids that was kind of recluse, didn't have a lot of friends. But esports and gaming was something that he was very good at, and he was able to use those skills that he had developed himself, for the first 12, 13 years of his life, to assist and help grow his team. So when we talk about neurodivergent, kids, that esports is their outlet. It is, you are going to, in some cases save lives, but at very least you are going to change their lives by allowing them to use their skill set to flourish in game, but also develop the skills that they need to develop those friendships and the abilities to maybe obtain a new job or career field that maybe they wouldn't have access to otherwise.
Yeah, it's really nice. Before our question, you said that the first, how can I say, history you said about like the soccer guy, the football guy. I really understand, because it happens with me, because like I usually play, and I am not neurodivergent, but I usually play, and 3 years ago, something like that, I joined a soccer team, and all the time that the teacher has to start a new scene or a new program, he starts with me, because he say like, hey Marcelo, you usually get something like easier than others. Then I say like, it's because like they have like partner, correct? Partners in your idea. And they say like, of course not. And they say, of course you have, like, for example, all the time we start like with the left leg or right leg. And for me it was like something that I thought that everyone knew, but it was just me who understand that partners that I could use for understand better the idea and using that in the game. And they say like, you really, you understand that? And they say, yes, it's always the same, And they say, just you saw that. No one saw that before. They usually say for me that I am a geek, and because of that, they like to start with me.
There you are. Yeah. And we can open those doors for all kinds of kids.
Yes.
We just have to provide the opportunity.
Well, we are in March, and it's the International Women's Day. So what tip or what do you want to say to girls or women who want to start in this industry? What can you give from all your knowledge about it?
You know what? It is probably, again, I played many sports growing up and whatnot. As far as like from the athletics standpoint, it is the most inclusive, supportive, communicative organization or ecosystem, that I've ever been a part of, right? Like the way I define it is, it's a bunch of us who were the nerdy kids that played, video games behind closed doors because it wasn't popular back in the day, right? Even, 15 years ago, it wasn't exceptionally popular. And we're all the nerdy kind of nice kids, right? And so now we've all come together and found our tribe. And so when you talk about women being involved, we need more women in STEM, IT, engineering, right? And this is an avenue for you to be able to explore content creation, right? And have yourself gain a voice with a population of people who are going to accept you for your uniqueness, and not harm you or turn you away. I can't speak to like the general gaming population necessarily, because that's not my world. My world is kind of esports, right? And where you're developing teams and you're developing skills. But, if you're a young girl or a woman out there and you want to give it a shot, like, do it. You will find those that you can collaborate with and that are like you and that will support you and help you along the way.
Okay, Julie, you are going to the last question. It's like 1 hour
Okay.
and 10. My
Okay.
question is, I think 2 in 1. Is like, if first of all, what you would like to say for coordinators or directors of universities, like for make them understand how important is that, how important sport is in this new generation in the education, and if you could look like in 10 years, like 10 years, I am just guessing,
Yeah.
but like in the future, what legacy you would like to say that, okay, I was part of that. What was the understand for a career that you would like to get?
Okay, so for any educator, for a superintendent, for a principal, for a college dean or chancellor, you are opening by having an esports program, whether it's club-based or competition, you are opening the doors and opportunities for students who might not ever consider your program, your university, your school. For those who kind of have never found their place or their voice, you are giving them that place, that voice, that opportunity to learn new skills, to hone current skills, and to shine, right, in a way that no other program will allow them to do. The other thing I will say, because I know that educators love data, in the scholastic space, it has been proven by several districts and several organizations that if you have an esports program, not only will your attendance increase and behavioral issues go down and your state test scores go up, but you will recapture approximately $20,000 to $25,000 per year, because kids want to come to school because of esports. In college, kids will stay and they'll want to come to your school because you offer an esports program. And that's not just the competitive gaming, right? That is production, casting, finance, law, medical. If you can attach that to your esports program, and it's not difficult to do at all, because all of those careers, all of those fields are within the esports ecosystem. You're going to draw more kids to your programs. Those that have in college, particularly the competitive esports programs, kids are going because they'll be with those kind of the students that are like them. They'll have that community that they're used to coming out of high school and esports programs, but also you're providing them an opportunity to connect academically with something that they do socially. And then the second part of that question was what again? Sorry?
No, what was our legacy in the future? What you want to see, like you say, okay, I was part of it, or I created that, something like that.
I'll be honest, I don't care so much about the created. Like I will say, most people don't know that I was that I was part of the between Steven and I creating the Minecraft Education Esports League, right? Like most people don't know that. And it's not about what I created, it's more who I've helped, so like I guess if it were my tombstone or what people would say about me once I left, I would hope that it would be that Julie was very authentic, that Julie was very service-minded, service-oriented, and that they could say, yeah, I knew Julie and she helped me this way, and it might be a million different ways, for a million different people, but just to be known as somebody that provided resources and support and helped you achieve your goals.
Oh, Julie, thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure to be with you. It's very important. Everything you said, it's very important. I'm really happy to talk to you, and I hope you keep striving in all your endeavors, everything you're doing, because that's very important to the kids, the new generation. So I'm really happy to see that there are people like you doing this kind of job to help the future of our kids. Again, thank you so much. And if someone that is watching us wants to talk to you, reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, that's really easy. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. It's Julie Mavro, or you can also search. My gamer tag is Jdogmav, JDOGMAV. That's also my email at gmail.com and my website. So I'm pretty readily available. And I love to help people, like, just if they want to just reach out. If I have, I usually schedule meetings I have at least 5 or 6 meetings with new people a week that I just, to answer questions or connect them or whatnot. So happy to meet with people and provide resources. And if you're in California and you're an educator and you want to be part of the California Esports Association, please reach out. There's no membership fee. We just want to bring everyone together across the state.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.